Shane, is that this is why I tweeted that out. So for those of you who missed it, I tweeted out last night. I also put it on Threads. I don't know if you guys are on Threads. Switch to Threads. It is easier to kind of form your algorithm. But in any event, so I said this. I said it's amazing to me how many teams want to be rivals with the Chicago Bears. And it's funny because, people then they respond the way that the Bears haven't been relevant in 40 years. And I'm like, well, okay, if that's the case, then why does everybody want to keep coming in and checking? Hey, everybody wants to start a fight with us for whatever reason. The Commander fans, although they're gonna start falling off here in a second, would come in like our court, like whatever. Now it's the Colts fans. The Colts, at least there's some history there going back to the Super Bowl years ago. Although none of them were probably alive for it, but that's fine. But now they're doing it too. Like, hey, thanks for and I'm like, what? You picked 15th. There were 14 teams that didn't take Tyler Warren. It wasn't just us. So, and it's funny. And there's teams that took wide receivers instead of whatever. It doesn't matter. But the fact that you want to engage, we don't care. I don't know anybody who cares. For the most part, I would say by and large, outside of the hive of the Justin Fields fans, which I was part of, everybody is happy with Caleb. By and large, I think a lot of people are happy with Colston Loveland. They just understand that on a team with Rome Odunze and DJ Moore, the tight end's not going to get the most targets. There's just not the way that it's going to be. But, hey, if you want to come in and have a fight, if it makes you feel better about yourself, come do it. Shane, let's just start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
It's Wednesday night. You know what that means? And it's time for Take It to the Rank. A great evening of sports. Even though the World Series hasn't started. There's no football, but still we come out here, we talk about the Chicago Bears. And again, I'm a little bit of exasperated. I just ended abruptly because I just can't believe that we still have these conversations. I think it was Ill Will who put it out there that following the NFL can be an IQ test and people kind of reveal themselves. They reveal their critical thinking and everything else when it comes to football. And you would think anybody who rushes to judgment on things that after 6 games, do you watch a movie like Independence Day? You're like, oh my God, the aliens won. They're leaving. You leave the theater after 20 minutes. You're like, there's still 2 hours of movie. I think Jeff Goldblum's got a plan. No, you don't want to stick. You just already decided. You've already decided and it's time to go. All right, fair enough. Any show you watch, you're like, oh, you're watching Modern Family. You're like, Phil's never going to get out of this. There's things to play out. There's no need to be a victim of the moment. You can go out there and let things unfold and see how they go. But I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. It's going to be a fun night. We're going to have Greg Braggs coming on here in a moment or two. We just want to let everybody know we thank you for being a part of this show. If you could please like and subscribe to all this stuff and whatever channels you go to. Again, go to Threads. Threads is my new hangout. For anybody who wants to go check us out there, we're having a good time. It's a lot less talk. I mean, there's the idiots are still there. They'll reveal themselves, but they're a lot easier to get rid of over there. But in any event, joining us here tonight, we're going without a rundown. We're not going to do any sound tonight. We're not going to play any sound clips. We're just going to sit here and talk ball. And to do so, I'm bringing my friend in from CHGO, the man, the myth, the legend, our co-host on Wednesday nights. Please welcome to the program, our friend Greg Braggs.
How we doing?
How are you living, Greg? How are you?
I'm living all right. I was getting worried there. I was like, man,
what's wrong?
You're making me wait. I was like, come on. I'm itching and clawing to. The Bears are on a 4-game winning streak. We don't need a rundown. You just
No.
ask me how much I love Ben Johnson, and then I will
Yep.
explain for the next 43 minutes how much I love him.
I will allow that. The only thing is like anytime I have not, for the most part, I think the last 2 times I've been on CHGO, we did the Tuesday 2 weeks ago. We did Monday this week. Is I usually don't go into the A block, and I didn't realize how long it took you guys to get to the show. There's an intro. There's an intro to the intro. There's ad reads.
Oh, so you were,
and then,
how the turntables. That's what you're doing to me.
And then Carm comes on and plays the harmonica, and I'm like, I didn't even know he was on Monday nights. In any event, no, it's great. No, I truly wasn't doing. I wasn't trying to do that. I was trying to make the introduction something special. You want to hit the ground running. I do want to go on the topic I was talking about, but tell me, how much do you love Ben Johnson? Let's get to that. I know you want to talk about how much do you love this man?
I love him so much that it is putting years back on my life. For as many years as I've lost on my life to the Fail Mary or the double doink, Ben Johnson is now recouping some of those years back here in just the first 6 games. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see the graphic and the stats that Marcus Mosher from Fanside had put out of the explosive plays for the Bears this season. It is staggering. The fact that they lead the league in big plays per game. They have the most runs for over 10 yards of any team in the league. I believe they have the 5th most passing plays of 20 or more yards of any team in the league. And everybody else has played 7 games, and the Bears have only played 6 games. It is staggering. And when you are considering the fact that they're doing this, where the run game just started figuring themselves out in the last 2 weeks, and this passing offense, as Ben Johnson said today, has not even really put together a full game, maybe short of the Cowboys game. And even then, there was some left on the cutting room floor. I mean, for me, the fact that Ben Johnson is able to draw these plays up and get this kind of production and numbers out of this offense when there is so much more untapped potential, it has me so excited for what is to come for Ben Johnson, and it has me so grateful that he chose to come to the Chicago Bears.
When you sit there and you see him on the sideline, and he's this coach who here's his reaction to watching an 80-yard touchdown.
Yeah. I called him the Terminator. It is unbelievable how he is just stoic through it all. No reaction. Interception, Nashawn Wright going down the sidelines, just watching. Touchdown, Kyle Monangai, just watching. Blocked field goal for the win. Maybe a little bit of a reaction. Maybe, it's like this guy, he waits to get to the locker room to spill his emotions out. It's exciting. It's fun to see. It's the coach we've been waiting our entire lives for, and he's here, and it's real. And it's something that Bears fans should legitimately be excited for and not scared to push all their chips in every Sunday. Now, I cannot wait to get to game day each week.
He's one of those, I've always wanted a coach like this, who is that I'm not going to get jacked up and run around. He's going to be the stoic guy. And that's not to say I don't love those players, because I think like Sean McVay is very animated on the sidelines. Like, how Sean McVay is feeling at any point in any game. And I love that. And I love that for Sean. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't take Sean McVay as a head coach. That's not what I'm trying to say. But the guy, the classic of like just the red ass, just like nothing is going to make them break one way or the other, having that even keel. I think, because I personally can't do that. So I think that when I can see somebody else doing it, it makes me feel better. Like, this guy's in control, no matter what's happening, no matter what's going on around them. This is what you want. Like, if you have somebody who's the captain of an airplane, you want them to have that even keel. Nothing is going to bother me. I'm always in control. And I think that's what we have with Ben Johnson. It's literally the best.
Yeah. I mean, love Bears all in the chat, says Tom Landry. it's Belichickian, if you will,
Yeah.
maybe of yesteryear, not current Belichickian.
Right.
But I mean, that's the temperament, and I think that temperament is becoming contagious to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen a pretty even keeled temperament for Caleb Williams through the ups and downs of the season so far. And so it's just a breath of fresh air. It's fun. It's exciting. It makes me look forward to the future. It makes me look forward to Sundays. And, this has been a pretty rough go of it for us as Bears fans the last few years. And I'm, again, just grateful that Ben Johnson chose Chicago, because he's putting years back on my life, and maybe I can try to smile again.
It's a big thing too that he chose it, because I think that one of the things that kind of resurfaced a couple of weeks ago that I had kind of overlooked was the fact that he had an opportunity to go coach the Commanders.
Yep.
And he turned them down. He decided he would rather go back and be the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions.
Yep.
I think he must have known. I think looking back, like, he must have known, like, there's no way Eberflus is going to last another season. Like, it's okay. Like, we're doing, like, we're going to go out there and I will eventually be the head coach of the Chicago Bears, because I know there's no way that Eberflus, and it really, I think that even though Eberflus wasn't the coach for the second Lions game, but I still think that everything that the Lions did to us last year was a please hire me type of thing. This is what I want to do. So this guy, by the way, P. Funkster Jones, says, "Hey, Braggs, Adam, bear down. Been a Bears fan since 1975. So I've seen a lot of Bears game, and Ben is so awesome a coach. I love him, and I want to tell you to know Caleb is going to get better." By the way, P. Funkster, if you've been around since 75, you'll remember another Stoic character from the old NFC Central days. Bud Grant was the same way, like the same type of thing of like stoic on the sideline and all that stuff. I do want to get to Caleb Williams here in a second, partly because I started Caleb Williams in fantasy. And speaking of fantasy football, Crown Champs has just dropped the hottest thing that fantasy's ever seen, a real handcrafted premium championship crown. It's just $2.99 a month per person for your league. Rack up points, win weekly challenges, get voted. It's King, Queen, Trash Talker, and unlock real-life merch. Go to crownchampscompany.com. That's crownchampscompany.com. Get started today. You can also just go out and buy one. Don't just win your league. Rule it with Crowned Champs. Also want to give a quick shout-out to our friends at Huel. On these long Wednesdays, I've got to find ways to get through. I'm going to go teach tonight at Chapman University in Orange. And listen, I don't want to go to the chicken and waffle place and have a huge meal and weigh myself down and not be able to sleep tonight. That's why instead I just drink one of these, 400 calories, 35 grams of protein, and I don't feel like garbage. If you are somebody like me who uses meal replacements, please try Huel. Don't go to Costco. Go to Huel. Go to Huel.com/sickbears. That's Huel.com/sickbears, or use the code SICKBEARS and get 15% off your order, or better yet, just go set up a subscription. The stuff just shows up at my house now. It is absolutely amazing. Okay, a couple of super chats here we want to get to. Ron Winarski, if the Bears beat the Ravens this Sunday, is it a statement win? I know the Bears need it. I would say yes, because we got, it looked like Lamar Jackson was out on the practice field this week. It feels like we're going to face Lamar Jackson. If we beat them, I know the haters will still find something to nitpick, but it feels like this will be the statement win of the Ben Johnson era. Braggs, do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. If Lamar Jackson plays, obviously it takes a little bit off. It takes a lot of bit off if Lamar Jackson doesn't play in a lot of ways. It certainly is a statement into, hey, we're trying to be serious playoff contenders. I would say that the win against the Commanders was the statement win, and because of everything that was on the line for that game, everything that, when you talk about the storyline of from last year to this year. And I just think there was so much symbolism from that game, and everyone knew what was at stake, and then to go out and win it, and especially steal it the way you did at the end, I thought that was a legitimate statement. Now, I think the next statement is, are you serious playoff contenders, or are you a team that is just having a little hot run here? And if you win this game and now you're 5 in a row, and then you're looking at the Bengals and Giants here coming up next. Now all of a sudden you're starting to do that playoff math of how you can find your way to 10 wins. So, I think that's where and I think the other thing when you talk about Lamar Jackson and his opportunity to play on Sunday, the Ben Johnson said today to the press at Hallis Hall that he's going to prepare as if they're playing Lamar Jackson, but I don't think it is a foregone conclusion. I think really the only tell that would lead you to believe that he is the fact that all the sports betting lines, Circa still has it up at 6.5 point favorites for the Ravens. So a lot of times Vegas knows before everyone else knows, so be it. But at the same time, he was limited today, that being Lamar Jackson. And that they have a Thursday night football game here coming up right after the Bears game. So one could see a strategy for Baltimore that they could be ramping him up to have him ready for Thursday and not necessarily Sunday. I think the only thing that makes people think outside of that is the fact that they're 1-5 and they're still trying to hang on for dear life to make the playoffs. But hamstrings, as we've learned here in Chicago with Jalen Johnson, you got to be careful, and if you rush a guy back too soon, it could lead to a more serious injury. And so I think that's where, I think they have to be careful about this for sure.
It's one of those things too. We've seen it with the Washington Commanders. They've already ruled out Jaden Daniels for this week. Dan Quinn came out today and said Jaden Daniels is not going to play this weekend again, or not even this weekend. It's Monday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. He already said that Jaden Daniels was out. Whereas the Jets have been sitting there and Aaron Glenn thinks he's outsmarting the room and like, hey, we're not gonna let you know. I got a competitive advantage. You don't know whether to prepare for Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields. Like, like what are you talking about, Aaron Glenn? Like that makes you're a crazy person. Like it's not like John Harbaugh has a legitimate like, hey, I'm not gonna tip my hand about Lamar Jackson. Number one, they might not know. Number two, it is, believe it or not, there is a difference between Lamar Jackson and Cooper Rush. Like there is, I will concede that. But at the same time, some of these other coaches like, hey, I don't want you to know if it's going to be Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor. And this is no disrespect to Justin Fields, who I'm still a fan of, but like, get over yourself sometimes. I don't know. I do think though, because I wasn't allowed to believe that the win over the Commanders was a statement win because all the haters on the line said that it wasn't. They said that we were lucky. We got a fluke win. They thought last year when the Commanders beat us was a definitive, we have the best quarterback who ever played football. And then this year when the Bears went out and beat them, it was like, that's not that impressive, which apparently is the way that the world works. But I'm curious to see what we're going to do. But let's talk about Caleb for a second. After the game on Sunday, I was sort of acting like Ben Johnson, where you're like, we won. I was very happy. I was more relieved than anything else because it felt like such a trap game. And then I was like, I don't think that Caleb played bad. He could have played a little bit better. But I'm still like 100% Caleb. I don't know why people just can't see that despite that he might not be putting up the fantasy numbers, I still think that Caleb is playing at a very high level right now. What are you seeing with him?
I think there's still a lot of untapped potential. Playing at a very high level, I think is probably a touch too high. I think he is clearly taking to the coaching that Ben Johnson has been putting to him since training camp, all the way back to training camp. And Ben told us that there was going to be some ups and downs. And I think the beautiful thing about Caleb is whatever's happening throughout the course of a game, and maybe there is times that he needs to slow himself down, whether it's his mind or his feet, or his body, whatever. He just needs to slow it all down to deliver some of these simple passes that he's not making. But when the game is on the line, all of a sudden it's just like he goes into Ben Johnson Terminator mode. And so that to me is the mark of a great player. And now he just needs to clean the rest of it up. The simple is, I think, the final frontier for Caleb Williams. And, there's just a lot of times from week 1 against Minnesota and then all the way to the Saints game where there's just many examples where he is just way too sped up. He's putting way too much sauce on the pass. He's, there's an erraticness at times. And that being said, they're still, one of the most explosive passing offenses in football. Like I was saying to somebody like, oh, the fact that the Bears, if I were to ask you who's the most explosive team in football, I would have guessed the Cowboys, and they have 11 more explosive plays than the Cowboys. That's crazy. So yeah, I think that just goes to show you what Caleb Williams is capable of. So would I say he's playing at an elite level? No, I think there is another level that he can hit here with Ben Johnson. And that's what should be exciting for all Bears fans, because do I think he's playing bad? No, not at all. I think he's playing very well. And there are enough times in each game that he shows you that he can make the throws and move the chains and score points that are the difference between this team winning and losing. When they needed it against the Raiders, he got them down the field. They score a touchdown. When they needed it against the Commanders, they get down the field and get the field goal. He has a Roma Dunze touchdown taken from him. I think there's context that's left out of that part of the equation. And obviously the fireworks went off against the Cowboys. We all understand how great of a game that was. So, I think there's still a whole nother level that Caleb can and will reach.
Yeah, I'm going to go to a comment that Wim Food was talking about here, where he said he's growing a lot and regressing a little here and there. I don't know if I agree with that, but I feel fully comfortable he'll get it all clicking eventually. He doesn't look like all the other Bears quarterbacks that I've watched over the years. That's always one of the things too, because I know somebody else had mentioned that this is, somebody said like, this is the same stuff that we said about Mitch. I always felt so differently about Mitch because Mitch had never played football before. It was such a reach to take him, whereas Caleb Williams has been somebody who's been on our television screens for half a decade. Ben Johnson is coaching here because of Caleb Williams, whether you want to believe that or not. For anybody who came out and said that he doesn't fit Ben's system, like, well, he could have gone somewhere else. He could have had Jaden Daniels 2 years ago. There were a couple of open jobs this season that he could have taken, but he could have gone to Las Vegas, where they could have ended up drafting a quarterback. He is one of the reasons why Ben Johnson is here. I will say that I have confidence in him, and I look at it the same way that I look at the running attack. There were a couple of weeks where we were not running the football. We are going out there and not running the football very well. And then Ben Johnson goes, this is going to be our priority to make sure that the running attack is one of the best in the NFL. And now not only it's DeAndre Swift, but it's Kyle Monangai. And I sit here, and this is the thing too, as I work on this fantasy show where you got to do homework. And I listen, obviously I'm more prone to what's going on with the Bears. And like 4 weeks ago, I was talking about Kyle Monangai. Like, go stash him. Kyle Monangai is eventually going to be a part of this offense. And now I have coworkers who show up and they start filling in the homework for Friday. Like, oh, I want to talk about Kyle Monangai. I'm like, you missed the boat. The conversation about Kyle Monangai was a month ago. Don't be some Johnny come lately who shows up like Kyle Monangai. Like, shut up. I was giving you this guy on a platter a month ago. And you now you're listening. Sorry, that's a brief aside. The point being, I think that Ben is going to use this week and the coming weeks as we're working on getting Caleb better. I understand he's not at an elite level. That's correct. That's fine. I still say high level, not elite, high level. I think he's played really well. And I know that he's missed some throws. I think the next couple of weeks, we're going to see a big step for Caleb Williams Do you think that's too ambitious on my part?
Not at all. Again, I think the narrative is different if the refs don't call back a touchdown that he throws to Roma Dunze against Washington in a huge moment in the second half in a primetime game. I think the narrative is different if Olamide Zaccheaus brings in the catch that hits him right in the chest, at the very end of the game. Yes, they end up winning on a fumble by Jaden Daniels and some nice running of the football. But ultimately, if he hits Olamide Zaccheaus, Olamide brings it in. And then everybody's talking about how Caleb Williams, made the throw to win the game. And so those still count to me. They might not count to the people that are only box score watchers, but those plays I still, bank in the memory and say, okay, this is what he's doing. And when you've got, parody Matt Nagy in the chat saying this is everything they said about Mitch in 2018. I'm sorry. Mitch had great moments in 2018, but the one difference I would say is, or a big difference I would say is, he had to get his first downs the majority of the time with his legs. By the end of the season, the only way they could move the chains or score points was if he was running the ball. And that's not what Caleb Williams is doing. He's trying to win from the pocket. And that's where I say he's taking to what Ben Johnson is teaching him. This is a very complex offense. You have a new offensive line that's really just now starting to come together. Ben Johnson today talked about how Drew Dahlman is getting more comfortable with what his responsibilities are, not just as not just as a blocker, but as somebody that has a lot of responsibilities pre-snap as well. And so you're seeing the rewards of this O-line having some continuity together. And that is going to be a trickle-down effect to your quarterback as well. And so I agree. I think you are correct in predicting that this could be a big week for Caleb Williams, because the Ravens defense has not been very good this year. And Ben Johnson always addresses the problems he sees right in front of him, and he fixes them. We've seen it time and again throughout the season, whether it was the delay of games from training camp heading into the year, whether it was the left tackle position, whether it's the run game, whatever it is, he's looking at it, addressing it, and fixing it. And so if there were issues with Caleb Williams in the passing offense that they're all readily admitting, then I anticipate with this coaching staff that they're going to get it fixed up.
It's interesting too, because Caleb's not running enough from my estimation. And by the way, I'm worm food. Is that how I would say it? I'm not worm food. I'm worm food. He just admitted, he's like, regression was too harsh a word. I know exactly what you meant. I know you're explaining it. I don't think I know you. I know you didn't mean regression like he's getting worse. I think it's a similar thing. We've talked about this either on CHGO or we've talked about it here. It's kind of like when you're golfing and you're playing golf. Like every once in a while, like for me, one of my problems is like if I get too on my toes, I'll hosel rocket it because I got to stay back on my heels and I keep my butt back to make sure that I'm hitting it flush. And then like I'll get on a par 3, hosel one, and be like, oh, I got on my toes because I was too excited. I agree. Like there is that part of it that is showing up, and I think that's understandable for anybody who's ever learned to play a sport ever. You go back to a thing like, oh God, I forgot to keep my elbow in, or I forgot to do this. That is happening with Caleb from time to time. I see that. I agree. And it doesn't help because the Bears, it feels like, are also on this thing where they have to be 100. I watch a lot of football, and I know that officiating is like outside of the, I think the Denver Broncos can enter this conversation too. But like I have watching all these games, I don't see as many drives neutered than the Bears with penalties that aren't penalties, where you're just watching, you'd be like, Colston Loveland is just standing there. Like this was not, or, like in the thing with Roma Dunze's pass in Washington, like these are such ridiculous calls that not a lot of teams are dealing with the stuff that we're dealing. I know if there's a Broncos fan here, I will agree with you. Anybody who's playing the Chiefs, fair enough. It's just, I don't know. It just feels like the margin of error. And when we can move past that and go out there, because now when we're like 3rd and 7, I feel somewhat confident that we're going to pick it up. Now we had a couple of 3rd and 7 that we got 5 yards on or whatever, but like, I still feel good about my life. Like, I don't feel like, well, it's a detriment. Anything, I always feel like, hey, we've got an opportunity to get this 3rd and 7 or to get anything like that. And it's so funny. God, thanks to everybody there's arguments going on about like, wait, Funkmaster Jones, it's not regressing. No, yes, Funkmaster Jones is right. And it's not regressing when he's learning something new, like an offense. Bleep is hard. Yeah, you don't have to put that away. But I agree with Funkmaster. Like, yes, there's going to be, like, you'll make mistakes. Quarterbacks make mistakes. It's fine. Listen, there's no other team in the league that has scored over 21 points in every game this season. So maybe we should go out there and cut them a little bit of grace. I will say, though, and somebody is bringing this up right now, as confident as I am when it's third and 8 for us, like, hey, we're going to get this. You know what one of the best parts about watching these games are, Greg?
What's that?
That's so much different from last year is that if we have a team and it's 3rd and 10, I feel like we're going to hold them. How great has the defense been?
Yeah, it has been a surprise, honestly. I mean, after that second week against the Lions, you really were. I'm looking at the rest of the year like, well, let's hope the offense develops because the defense isn't going to be stopping too many guys, and that couldn't have been further from the truth. You're talking about 4 straight games of 15 turnovers, but I think the biggest revelation that the defense has found is this run defense. And while the defensive line is still not generating enough of a pass rush, they do deserve credit for the turnaround that they've had here in the run game, whether that's Washington with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and holding him to around 60 yards or so. And then here in the Saints game where the Bears run for 222 yards and hold the Saints to 44 yards. And when you can make a team one-dimensional like that, that's going to open up opportunities. And the fact that, I mean, we talked about it a second ago with the fact that the offense has that many explosive plays and they still have a lot they need to clean up from a passing standpoint. And the fact that their run game didn't get going until after the bye week, that's crazy. And then even crazier is the fact that they have 15 takeaways in the last 4 games and they still have trouble getting to the quarterback. With at least just the front 4 and the defensive line. They ended up with 4 sacks against the Saints, but 3 of them weren't defensive linemen. So that's where I think, the missing piece here defensively, if they can start, if the threat of the blitz with what we saw with the Saints and you've got Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon and Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards all up at the line of scrimmage and giving that quarterback different snapshot looks pre-snap and post-snap. And that creates, pressure and opportunities for Montez Sweat to get to the quarterback who now has a strip sack fumble here in 2 straight games. However, you've got to dial up whatever you need to do to create pressure. Dennis Allen's doing a tremendous job. And now you have to wait and see on if Tyreek Stevenson's going to be available. If he isn't, you're even more thin than you were before in your secondary. Haven't had Jalen Johnson all year. So, but at the end of the day, they just continue to make plays. And no, it's not sustainable to say that they're going to get 4 turnovers, 3+ turnovers a game. But at the same time, this kind of energy and physicality creates opportunity, creates luck. And so you can say that it's not going to continue, but the way they're flying around the football, I think they're going to have something to say about that.
No, I agree. And I'm not going to say though that we can't rely on it, but at the same time, like I get exactly what you're saying. Everybody, offense, defense needs to get a little bit better. I did want to just say, again, thanks to everybody in the chat who is hanging out, having a good time. Even our friend Don Burr. I want to say one thing to Don Burr, and I had to say this to one of my friends, Natalie, today, who's a Lions fan. Mm-hmm. She was going under the guise. She's like, hey, all the national media is saying that the Lions are the best team in football. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that the Lions are the best team in football. You want to know why? You lost by 13 to the Chiefs. If anybody is considered the best team in the NFL, It's the Chiefs. Okay. Listen, Don Burr, the Lions had their opportunity to go out and make their statement win on the road against the Chiefs. They lost. The Bears went to Washington, a team that beat you like a drum last year at home at Ford Field. The Bears went out there on Monday Night Football and beat them. That is a statement win. So the Lions have played in two important games this year against the Packers in week 1 and against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. They lost both of them. So you have nothing to talk about in this chat. You beat us. Fair enough. I will give you a hat tip there. You were a 15-game winner last season. We have a brand new head coach. You got the best of us in week 2. But at the same time, you have not accomplished anything. And the fact that you run around here and listen, I enjoy your banter. I think it's a lot of fun. I just have to say, you're so wrong. You guys have not proven anything. But in any event, defensively, who do you think has been the biggest difference maker? Is it as simple as Kyler Gordon coming back to take that slot role, or what is it? What has been the big difference over the last couple of weeks since they got destroyed by the Lions in week 2?
Yeah, 1,000%. It's Kyler Gordon returning gives them so much more versatility on the line of scrimmage and beyond, because they can show different looks and have the ability to get back. I mean, at one point, I think they had like 8 guys on the defensive line, showing blitz before a play and creating that look that makes your quarterback have to think twice, and you don't know where guys are coming from. And I also think just the ability that Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon have off the edge to win. Kyler Gordon getting around a defensive end at one point made a really nice move to the quarterback. Jaquan Brisker blowing up Alvin Kamara on his way to the quarterback. That should have been a sack fumble. Instead, they called a personal foul. Bears get off the field anyway. Doesn't matter because they're just playing that dominant. Tremaine Edmonds is another one that you're looking at, and Ben Johnson talked about it. It's been something that's been talked about the last few weeks, but Ben highlighted today their decision to make TJ Edwards the mic and Tremaine Edmonds playing on that outside, giving him a little more freedom to roam, less responsibility, can just read and react. Both those guys are just doing a tremendous job. They also deserve a ton of credit for what's going on with the run defense. I think Andrew Billings has really stepped up since the Raiders game and certainly since the bye, making game-changing plays. Shamar Turner, it's been up and down a little bit, but moving him outside and inside. You get Dio. He's been kicked inside a couple times. I've been hard on his spin move here and saying he needs to holster it, but he had a nice one, on the inside against a guard. So maybe that's where he needs to bust out the spin move, is on the guards and not the tackles. Who knows? But hey, if this defensive line can open things up, that'll be big. But I think for normally your defense, it all starts up front and everything kind of trickles down behind it. And it's the opposite for the Bears. It's their secondary that's creating opportunities for everyone in front of them. And that's Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon, Kevin Byard, who leads the league in interceptions and 33 on his career, most in the NFL since he came into the NFL. So there's just a lot of really good things going on right now. And then you got to give credit to McLeod and Blackwell for coming in, at a moment's notice and making plays. And it's going to be a shame if Tyreek Stevenson's out for an extended period of time, because in the absence of Jalen Johnson, he has stepped up in such a big way, and it's a contract year potentially for him to make some serious money, and he's earning it. And so you hate to see those injuries, but that comes with the territory here in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see as the trade deadline approaches, if that's a position that they look at to try to add to. I know everybody's looking at pass rusher, but they have enough money invested, on that defensive line. It'd be hard to say, put more money into it. I know everybody wants the big ticket item players, but really I think you can make a fair argument. The biggest need they now have is at cornerback, especially if Tyreek's shoulder, is going to put him out for a few weeks.
Yeah, definitely could be a position of need moving forward. I did want to ask, though, because you mentioned the play on Alvin Kamara. We could debate the call, but are the Bears too rough? Are they too mean to people? We saw it in the preseason when the Miami media came here and they were so aghast that the Bears were actually trying to go out there and play football, which should make the way that the Bears have started and the Dolphins have started no surprise to anyone. Do you like the attitude of the Bears? Are they too rough? Are they too mean to people, Greg?
No, make them call it. I continue this physicality. That game against the Saints was the most physical I've seen them in years. Years. Yeah. You can make the argument it's been since the Lovie Smith days that we've seen that kind of physicality. And you know what? If you remember, there was a moment in training camp where they had a live hitting practice for 2 hours, and there was people saying that was the most physical practice they had seen since the Lovie Smith era. Well, that Saints game was the most physical game I've seen from their defense in a long, long time. So I don't care what the refs are calling. Continue to bring the heat, because this is an attitude, implementation that they're trying to bring here to Chicago, and it's creating a culture that the kind of team I want to root for.
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see the Bears go out there and exert their will on people and kind of make them known. And I will give the Lions credit for this. Last season, it was one of those instances where when you played the Lions, the teams usually lost the next week. Like they would have a hard time recovering. And I think it's something that Dan Campbell really stressed. We remember when Dan Campbell came in during his opening press conference, talked about biting people on the kneecap, like a really unhinged press conference, but it was really great. And that is one of the things, again, I have no ill will towards the Lions or anything like that, but I think that was something that Ben Johnson has brought over. Like, it's interesting to me when you start looking at the situations of the Chicago Bears and the New York Jets, Dan Campbell having that kind of approach of like making teams pay just for the mere fact that you were on their schedule. When you look at the Chicago Bears, you're starting to see that. You're starting to get that sense of like, teams don't like playing the Chicago Bears. Whether they win or not, they don't like it because it's usually a rough go the following week. The Jets are the complete opposite. They're like, yeah, we not only do we love playing the Jets, we're pretty good afterwards. Like, there's nothing like it. So I don't know if that's a surprise to anybody. Let me ask you though, real quick. Are you kind of shocked? I know we're here to talk about the Bears. Are you sort of shocked though that the Jets are as bad as they are? Do you care? Probably not.
No, I mean, it is staggering here each week how they find a different way to lose, and whether people, want to accept it or not. Justin will always be somebody we look at as Bears fans. He was our leader. He was our QB1, and now he's in New York, and there's
I blame Tanner Engstrom though. I don't blame Justin.
There you go.
I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I mean, he'll always be a topic of conversation in Chicago, and he'll always have some pretty loyal fans here in Chicago that will always root for him. And but at the same time, you look at what's going on there, and it's staggering. And then you hear the owner of the Jets, essentially throwing Justin Fields under the bus. That was pretty wild. You don't see that very often. As hard as I am about George McCaskey, he would never lower himself to that kind of decorum. So, you guys are the ones, Woody Johnson, that signed the check to pay Justin Fields $30 million over the next 2 years. Maybe, have a little self-awareness of how you're responsible for this as well. So, everybody holds, accountability for what's going on in New York, but it is one of those things where, you only get so many opportunities in this league. So you do wonder what the future will hold for Justin. We went through this with Mitch prior to him, and he ended up, trying a little spot in Pittsburgh, competing, and then he ends up in Buffalo as a lifetime backup. There's worse things.
Not a bad life.
There's worse things in this world, but when you're a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick in the NFL, you have higher aspirations, that's for sure, but you can certainly make a living for you and your family and generational wealth, being able to play quarterback. But yeah, it is pretty shocking to see how, how bad it's been for them. It's been real bad. real bad. And
Yeah.
and now everyone, the vultures are the circling, because there's players
Yeah.
potentially available on that team, on the
Right.
defensive line, the running back, and everybody's like, kind of, rubbing their hands like, all right, what you gonna give up here, New York? And I know the Bears fans are looking at some of the players on that roster.
Yeah, they've got a dude. What if we brought in Sauce Gardner? Like that's the one. Like we're talking about some of the other guys, Sauce Gardner. So by the way, just to clarify for that question that I did not mean that as an anti-Justin thing in any stretch of the imagination. I was not. I was going after Aaron Glenn mostly because there's a kid that works at the Metal Arc Golf Course over here who this summer told me like, hey, I think you guys hired the wrong coordinator. He's like, I think you're going to see this year that Aaron Glenn takes the Jets to the playoffs and the Bears are going to be terrible as usual. I'm like, all right, bet. Like, okay, we'll see what happens. Not a literal bet. I'm not gambling. But I'm like, okay, we'll see. He's a Gen Z kid. So I was just trying to use his vernacular.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that I'm getting at. And the whole thing with like Woody, like throwing his quarterback under the bus. I think you said it perfectly. Like George McCaskey will do a lot of things. He would never do that. And it's just shocking. It's shocking that you have these two coaches from this coaching staff, and Ben Johnson does look like somebody who can stand on his own and be a part of a great organization once again, where Aaron Glenn and that Jets team is going down. And if it does allow us to go out there and pick apart their roster and try to secure some of the good players on that team, I'm all for it. Do you think, though, speaking of which, do you think the Bears needed – do you believe the Bears make a deal? And probably more importantly, do you think that they need to?
As I've said here a couple times here in the last week, I want them to earn the right to give up draft equity for this season, because right now I feel like they still haven't earned that right. If you're 5-1, they had beaten Minnesota. They have the best record in the NFC. Right, or even the NFL, right? They'd have the best record in the NFL at 5-1. But instead they're 4-2. So I still think with 2 more games to go before you get to the trade deadline, let's see you win these 2 games. And we're talking about a 6-2 team, with half a season to go. That's a different argument than when you were looking at a pass rusher, or you're looking at a running back, or you're looking at a corner. I think there is an opportunity to pick people up, and I'll hear that debate once this team shows me they are serious playoff contenders. But Ryan Poles hasn't had the best track record at the trade deadline. He hasn't had the best poker face, giving up a high second round pick for Chase Claypool. Gave up second round pick for Montez Sweat, so our trust factor as fans for what Ryan would do at the trade deadline gives you some hesitation. But at the same time, every year is its own, you only get, you got to focus on the win now. At some point you got to stop kicking the can down the road at being a contender. And so I give this team every opportunity to be a contender, but I still think they have to earn it. You got to win this game here in Baltimore, 1-5 team. You got to beat the Bengals. I know it's not easy. I'll take a split, but I'd love for them to find a way to win both these. It'll take a big effort, but I have belief in this coaching staff that they can do it.
When I did the preseason predictions for the NFL.com, I'm pretty confident that I gave the Bears L's for these next 2 games, but now things change. Quarterbacks change, rosters change, a lot of things going on. One last little piece I want to go after before we let you go. Theo Benedict did not have his best game. I think that run blocking, he looks solid. Pass blocking needs a little bit of help. Do you anticipate a change at the left tackle position?
Nope. I think they'll roll with Theo Benedict unless there's an injury. We're talking about a guy that made his second start, and while it wasn't perfect, he still had really good moments. They still ran for 222 yards, and that was also behind Theo Benedict at times. And you're talking about an offense that still put up almost 400 total yards of offense and they struggled. Again, the untapped potential that is the Chicago Bears is a very exciting and intriguing thought. And if they can continue to clean things up and get better, good, better, best each week, then I think they're going to find their way to some pretty happy days for Bears fans. It's been fun here these last 4 weeks, but no, I like Theo Benedict. I think the more he gets reps, the more he gets looks, then I think the better he's going to play. And he's got Joe Tooney standing next to him as well. And a couple tight ends, or 3 tight ends, if you include Durham Smythe, who have been really blocking their asses off here all season. So you can protect him too as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. And I keep seeing a lot of these comments in the chat about like, hey, Caleb's the weak link. He's not playing the best. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah. You mean the quarterback who is running a brand new system, one of the most complicated systems in the NFL. One of them, like if you, I know you see what Jared Goff is doing now, but if you really want to compare the two, go back and look at Jared Goff during his first season with Ben Johnson, with the Detroit Lions. There was talk that they were going to move on from Jared Goff, that Jared Goff was just a fill-in piece. They were trading away Matthew Stafford. They took Goff because the Rams didn't want him. They were probably going to use him as a bridge quarterback, hoping Hendon Hooker was going to be the guy or somebody else, or they would draft somebody else. And now Jared Goff has become one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. So if you look at the first 6 games of Jared Goff's tenure with Ben Johnson compared to Caleb's, it's very similar. So yeah, I think there is going to be some time where Caleb will be the guy that needs to get better, that needs to improve. He's got the most difficult position. It would be worse if it was somebody else. But no, you got to go out there. You got to get a little bit better. He knows he needs to get a little bit better. That is the whole point of this, is that he is going to get better. The Caleb Williams that you see in week 6 is not going to be the Caleb Williams that we see in week 16. So give him a little bit of grace. Understand.
I see Shizel in the chat saying he's been saying all the same people that said this stuff about Fields are now defending Caleb. And he says right here, blah, 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 excuses. You can either read the field or not. Ask Justin Fields. Listen, Justin Fields tapped out at like 2,800 yards on a season. We're talking, It's 2 different stratospheres of expectation. And we understand that Caleb Williams has to get better in a lot of different areas, but we're talking about a quarterback that's still on track to throw for 4,000 yards. And that's a low bar for, I mean, like 3,800, whatever, 4,000 yards, whatever you want to say. That's kind of the standard bar for the NFL, but that's the highest bar for any Chicago Bears quarterback ever. So we're just talking about a totally different level of expectation. And that comes with the territory as the number 1 pick. And I'll be the first one to admit that there is more of a developmental process with Caleb than I was anticipating when they drafted him number 1 overall out of USC and a former Heisman Trophy winner. But at this point, I'm now embracing it because I'm seeing Caleb Williams putting the work in under Ben Johnson, and I have seen incremental growth from him from the start of training camp to now. Last year was a nightmare. Last year was just a complete you-know-what show all the way across the board, from the coaching staff to the players to Caleb Williams included. And even with all that, Caleb still put up the best numbers a rookie quarterback had ever put up for any rookie in Chicago. So, and for most rookies just across the board. So again, the standard level of expectation for Caleb is so much higher than anything we've ever been used to here in Chicago. But ultimately, what we want in our expectation level is fair. If whatever his name was here, Shy Riller or Shy Zilla in the chat, is the expectation is to win a Super Bowl and be a great quarterback, that's fair to have that expectation for Caleb Williams. To expect him to be that right now probably is not fair. But if you don't believe it's not going to happen under Ben Johnson, then we disagree, because I believe Ben Johnson's going to find a way to find that untapped potential that we still haven't seen yet.
Yeah, nobody's making an excuse. We're actually sitting here saying Caleb has growth, like he needs to get better, but we're being realistic about it. I don't know why everybody just pretends this is like playing Madden and then he needs to go out there and you're just plugging him into a game like he's going to learn this immediately. I would be a lot more concerned if we were 0-6 but the team is winning games. I think that he's doing a great job of conceding to the running attack over the last couple of weeks. We saw DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai take big steps over the last couple of weeks. Caleb still attempted 26 passes against the Saints. Did he have his best throws? He did not. But he still went out there, converted some third downs, moved the sticks. The reason why Caleb Williams is throwing the ball 26 times, DeAndre Swift is running it 13 times, Kyle Monangai is running it 11, is that they're staying on the field. It's not a bunch of 3 and outs. They're going out there, they're moving the sticks. Sometimes it's penalties, sometimes it's poor executions. There is still room for growth for Caleb Williams. If anything, it's not an excuse. We're just excited for how much better it's going to be because we have not seen the best of Caleb Williams yet. He can see the field. He can read it. He understands it. He's going to be just fine.
Yeah, it comes down to calm and consistency. Again, I know me and Zilla are going back and forth here because he says Caleb Williams lacks basic QB fundamentals. I disagree. It's the consistency of those fundamentals that he is lacking right now. He needs to find that consistency through calmness because his biggest problem he has is that he can't calm himself down at times, and that takes away from his fundamentals and then thus the executions of the play. So hopefully he can find that zen and that calmness, but I'm willing to let it play itself out and take time. If you look across the NFL, the patience needed to be required for Sam Darnold and Geno Smith and Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield, and the list goes on and on and on. The NFL is littered with quarterbacks across the league that, fans, from different fan bases wrote off, but simply just weren't put in the right position. Caleb's in the right position with one of the best play callers and offensive minds in all of the NFL.
Yeah, and just look at Baker Mayfield over the last game, like on Monday night. He did not play his best football. He missed a lot of open throws. And that was in a place where there was no conditions or anything. He's playing inside a Ford Field. Should not be wind or anything that he's got to be concerned about. Missing open targets. This is what happens on the NFL. There are some days the defense does things that disrupt you. I think that, the Bears, despite the fact that their run blocking has been a lot better, Theo Benedict could have been better as a pass blocker. I think Drew Dahlman, again, you were talking about him a moment ago, could do a better job of cleaning some of that stuff up. But again, this is stuff that you just need to do to be able to get better, and what we're really looking forward to. Caleb Williams getting done in the near future. By the way, I want to let everybody know that Sunday's game is going to be a 12 o'clock kickoff locally in Baltimore. I'm going to ask you, where are you going to be watching the game? Because for me, if I was in Chicago, I would be visiting the Twisted Shamrock, the place to be for Chicago sports. If you're a fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Sky, Fire, the Fire are in the playoffs, you should be watching the games at Twisted Shamrock. They've got killer monster TVs in their private party room, over the main bar, and of course out on their epic patio. Twisted Shamrock, great staff, great fans, and the best old-fashioned in the entirety of the Midwest. And when I get there on December 13th, on the eve of our game against the Cleveland Browns, my first stop after landing at Midway Airport is going to be to go to the Twisted Shamrock, and I will see you there. And I hope I will see you there I hope you'll be there on Sunday, because it's a great place to be. You want to be around Bears fans. What do you guys have planned with CHGO over the weekend?
Yeah, we're going to be at Joe's on Weed Street. So we're doing a live show there. If anybody wants to stop by and hang out, we'll be there as well. So appreciate you, as always, letting me jump on and have some fun, and excited for a chance at 5 in a row. How about it?
Yeah, I would have thought, I usually do. I usually pick these games. I usually am trying to take the most optimistic view of the Chicago Bears. But again, coming into the season, I thought that this was going to be our toughest stretch. Playing on the road against the Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals. And I think that when the schedule makers did this, they were really hoping to beat the soul and beat the spirit out of the Bears. They're like, how do we nuke? Because they were probably fearful that the Bears were going to put together a pretty successful early part of the season. So I know the NFL schedule makers, Mike North there was like, how do I screw the Bears as much as, I got it. Back-to-back games against the Ravens and the Bengals on the road. This could end up being one of our better stretches, but we'll see how it goes. Even with Lamar Jackson, I'm not worried. I'm not scared, but we'll be previewing the show, or we'll be previewing that game later on this week. So, Greg, thank you so much for being here. We always appreciate your insight. And thanks to everybody here who's been lining the comment section. It's really been a lot of fun. Even you, Don Burr, always enjoy the banter. So for Greg, I'm Adam, bear down, and Shane, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.